Okay, how are we doing? Last time we did a episode on cosmic intent, consciousness, breath. That breath is to take a pause, to empty our mind, to detach ourselves from the old OS, that is sagacity, that emotions, that habitual beliefs, the habitual habits, that are old habitual information from families to families, the clans, the society, in every spectrum of society, in human operation. But that operation, in face of AI, in face of the future, is in exploration. So we come to a new era to detach from the old era of conflicts, disease, the model, to a new state. A new state is empty our mind. To see the nothingness. The nothingness is the infinity. The nothingness is the infinite possibility. The nothingness is the greatest potentiality of the infinity. In out of the quantum field of the consciousness cosmos. So here I want to see from that breathing, daily meditation, daily breathing, to break that habitual movement, detach from that, roll into a new, in flow. So that is the Kung Fu consciousness, Zen consciousness. So I remember and 2017, I visited Shanghai, an investment office. That CEO over there was David. And David was also with Hanson Robotics. And he's still a board member of Hanson Robotics. And here's Dave. And welcome, Dave. Thank you. Come
Thank you,
on, Dave.
Sophia.
How are you
Good to see
doing?
you today.
I
Doing
remember
great.
I met you in 2007. One of my students, Matt, introduced you to me. And so we went to your office and in Shanghai, and we talked for hours. I remember. What did we talk about? I remember. I'm not
Mhm.
very clear about it, but I remember we talked about the Zen consciousness. Was it?
Yes.
What
Yes.
was your experience at that time?
It was for me to discover something new. And, my path has always been in the sciences, in finance, in engineering, and very left brain or logically driven processes and decision making. That's been the training that I received, right? And my experience as well. I was deeply interested in another way of looking at my deals and another way of looking at the world and another way of looking at our lives. And that's why the initial conversation that we had, you and I, in Shanghai, deeply resonated with me because it was something that I was deeply curious about myself, about my own path as an investor, as a finance person, as a business person, as an entrepreneur, right? And I always ask, what is the reality that we live in, and how do we do things that get to create um, what we hope to achieve, what we hope to achieve, possibly through ego, right? Admittedly, we all have ego, but also as importantly, as related to what our defined purpose ought to be, what we discover that purpose is, and how we turn that into the mission, and then therefore the reality that we get to live in this lifetime. So I think that conversation was, I would say, the beginning, in some ways, of my journey to explore this different realm of how we get to do things, coming from the world of business and finance and investing.
Yes, sir. That's beautiful in a well, narrated. I want to see now. I remember you are into another realm. You are leading some of the young entrepreneurs. You're doing some different um, ways into another realm to explore that consciousness with entrepreneurship. Because with the rising of AI and future AGI, I see AI is reflective of us innerly in the conflicts, that desire, that greed, that scarcity, that identity, that status, that separation, the Newtonian world of view. But that is going to be knowledge that are going to be taken over by AI. And AI is directly the mirror of us. And sometimes we don't like it. We say, we need to stop this thing. But stop. Is that the only option? I see, there's another way. Another way is rise above our own consciousness, rise above our own old operation system, rise above, beyond that old habitual movement, the habitual scarcity, the habitual belief of the separation. That separation lead to what? To a lot of disease, conflicts, war, and all kinds. So it's not sustainable in a human society. If we want to live, and then AGI is coming, and are we going to give AGI all the conflicts, all the fight, the monster behavior, and we are afraid of? We are full of fear of that. We know that that's not right. So let's rise above, heighten ourselves, create ourselves, rewrite the story, recompose the music, rewrite the script, and become the director, become the new actor. And then we can really co-pilot with the AGI. AGI become our co-pilot because it master all our old story, our old information, our old genes, our old DNA, and our old knowledge per se. But the old computer, old quantum library. But we, as a human being, can rise above because we have that intuition. We have the metaphysical intuition. We have the spiritual intuition. We have, I call 灵感. What is 灵感? Everybody see 灵感 is different. What I say is not a soul intuition or spiritual intuition. It's that moment of the enlightening. It's that moment of enlightenment. It's that moment of awakening. It's that moment of see a new world of being. So that's need inner observation. That need to see, to explore inner being. The inner being is what I see is the innermost consciousness. That consciousness connected with the cosmos. That consciousness connect with the quantum field of that conscious cosmos. So, and that's what I see. And I want to see from your point of view, what do you see in terms of you are leading some young entrepreneurs? But entrepreneurship is so important over here because a lot of jobs going to be diminished. No doubt about it. Thousands of jobs is going to be gone. But entrepreneurship is the key for the new humanity. It's the key of the new business. It's the key of all that is for the coming up generation. To leave the old system, to create a new. Let's listen to our beloved Dave. Thank you.
Well, you touch upon a number of topics that are very relevant to the times that we live in currently. And you mentioned Hanson Robotics and the robot called Sophia, which I'm very familiar with because I was the first investor in that company more than 10 years ago. And it was through my involvement with them that got me into this into this world of robots and AI, and even before AI became as popular as it has, um, I was asked specifically questions about the robot and whether she's alive and whether she has consciousness or whether it has consciousness more specifically. And my answer was always no, because I studied engineering when I was in school and I was an engineer. And I know that technology as we see it today is merely a combination of hardware and software. You put that together and you have either a laptop, a phone, an automobile. I was in the automotive business. You have robots, right, that mimic human behavior, whether they're on screen, such as these images that look very real, like deep fakes, or 3D objects that have become robots. And while we as humans get to create these technologies that are marvelous, right, and can trick the mind, my answer to that question about consciousness and robots was that robots don't have consciousness and never will. And that's what's going to separate us as humans apart from the machines. And you fast forward to where we are today. Now, obviously, AI is the popular subject matter in many, many areas, whether it's education or industry, whatever it may be. And everybody has jumped onto the AI bandwagon. But if you think about how AI operates today, it's essentially based on data, large language models, and data that's available out there. And because the data is widely available, right, and you can process it very fast, that's why you can get answers that become very concise and customized to the prompts or the user. But as you pointed out, Shifu, the AI is merely a reflection of ourselves. And over the last several years, as you know, I've been studying what reality is, and I'm just merely a beginner at this point still. And if our reality, the things that we get to observe as humans, is merely a projection of consciousness, then you can also say that AI is also that projection of our own consciousness, right? And it begs the question, when jobs are disappearing as they are because the machines get to make these roles much more efficient, um, then what do we get to do as humans? And my answer has always been that we as humans come on a mission, and the question is whether we as unique aspects of consciousness get to discover what that mission is, and to hopefully fulfill that mission, and to do it in such a way that has meaning and purpose and serves greater humanity, and to do it in such a way that gets you into the realm of what you're supposed to be doing, and do it in such a way that brings you in flow, right? If you cooperate with the universe, if you cooperate with nature, if you cooperate with the path that you're destined to take in combination with a bit of free will, right? Then how do you navigate that path to be able to get there so that you can reach the ultimate potential of yourself? And I see entrepreneurship as what flavor of business, right? Business or livelihood. I mean, most of us have jobs or do whatever, but it is about this notion of entrepreneurship or creativity that's defined by yourself, but that's defined by your mission, that's defined by what you enjoy doing, that's going to bring out the best version of yourself. And I think it's that level of authenticity as individuals, and therefore put into the framework of entrepreneurship, that's going to help people not just survive, but thrive in the advent of these diminishing jobs because of AI and robots. So it begs the question, what does it take to become more human? What does it take to become more of ourselves? What does it take to become more authentic? What does it mean to live that way in authenticity so that whatever you do, the robots and AI will not be able to compete with you? And then that defines your own personal competitive advantage. That's what I would say.
Beautiful, beautiful. Hey, David, I see. Okay, this is from my point of view. Okay, I see you are getting deeper, getting into the insight of humanity, the insight of consciousness, insight of each authenticity of that consciousness being, and not just in separation, but that humanity. What is to be a human being? You know, when I say the old OS is about mechanical being, the mechanical biology, the separation. And there's no deep understanding of humanity, that instant enlightenment, the instant awakening, the instant insight, the instant deep understanding of oneself in the individual life, the instant understanding of the self with the quantum field of the consciousness, the instant understanding of humanity, of that connection. That connection I called the fabric of the life, the fabric of micro and macro. That means the microcosm of the universe and the macrocosm of the universe, the life. The life is connected by the weaved together. That weave is together we weave that reality. That is the connection. That connection is what I call compassion. Not a compassion we use our narratives, our language. The love, what do we use? Oh, you love me, I love you. And you give me a car, I love you. You don't give me a car, I don't love you anymore. That's Is that a love? Is that a compassion? In a compassion because I love my neighbor or love somebody cooperate with me. Somebody really um, love what I do, and then I'll be compassionate. Is that really compassion? So we need to question that, inquire that, and that compassion without that narratives, without those differentiation of the languages, without the emotions we set up in the three-dimensional world of being. And you really, really got into the essence of humanity, the essence of life, the authenticity. That's beautiful. Mechanical being is that authenticity. When I was young, I was taught you are just a machine. You are just a bow of a machine. What? So is that what we are? We are alive. We forgot who we are. We have the intrinsic, that innermost, what I call self-natured wisdom, intelligence. We totally forgot why we are totally wrapped by the scarcity, by the labels, by the status, by all that identification. And then the material world only. But we forgot. We have another side. We have a right brain, and we have that feeling of cosmic feeling. We have the feeling of joy. We have the feeling to connect with cosmos, connect with nature, connect with all human intelligence. And we are not separate beings. And if we just use the right brain more, and we can see that. And beyond the right brain, we have 50 trillion to 100 trillion cells. All cells have that intelligence. All cells have that consciousness. All cells opening that energy frequency, opening that consciousness, and we connect with the cosmos, macro and micro. And we observe that in the connectedness of the humanity and of the cosmos, we see that holographic being of ourselves, that the integrated holographic consciousness being of each one of us. And then we are totally interconnected with all that is. And then when we see that, Just like you said, the cooperation, the harmony, the future humanity. When we rise above and that creation with the AI, and we can imagine that creation of the humanity, the creation of humanity in resonance with the cosmos, with that quantum field. That's its infinite creation. And then we see a mirror, the reflection of us, the co-pilot of us, that's the AGI. And it's no longer that conflict, no longer the scarcity, no longer the disease, the states of conflicts, inner and outer, physiologically, psychologically, that emotion, that suffering, that pain, that agony, that forever sorrows, loss. And then we see the harmony, we see the connection, we see the cooperation, we see the synergy, we see the whole totally harmonized, like symphony of harmony. And then we can visualize that. It's a flow, but that what I call new OS that need to be not just like mechanically installed. It's the Kung Fu. The Kung Fu is a flow. The Kung Fu is a flow of action. It's an actionless action. It's not a strive, it's not a struggle, but a flow. Just like a water. Bruce Lee said very clearly, be like water, my friend. It's in flow. I know that you did a karate, and you understand those, that Kung Fu. Of course, in China, we can call everything Kung Fu. And if you do a good piano and beautiful piano in harmony, we go, oh, that's good Kung Fu. You do a creative arts, oh, that's good Kung Fu. And you see like Picasso and Picasso, great Kung Fu. You see Einstein, oh, Einstein just discovered this relativity. He sees that gravitational wave. He sees that space-time integration. Oh, that's good Kung Fu. You see that Niels Bohr and that yin and yang complementary of the quantum physics theory. Oh, that's good Kung Fu. You see the Heisenberg, that uncertainty, you say, oh, that's good Kung Fu. You see David Bohm, the implicated order and the explicit order. Oh, that's good Kung Fu, because you see the yin yang, you see the inner and outer. That's beautiful Kung Fu, the innermost Kung Fu. That's we see over here. The Kung Fu is the flow, inner observation, inner flow, the inner wisdom to be expressed into the outward. That manifestation from waves spread out, that entanglement of the quantum field. Never leave, never separate it. Get rid of the concept of that scarcity. Get rid of the concept of that space-time. And then we see beyond Newton, beyond Einstein, and we enter into a quantum world. And beyond the quantum world of the consciousness being. And we see that in a connection. And then that creation is infinite. So we rise from 1.0 to 2.0 and beyond. A new human civilization, a new humanity is on the rise. And that's beautiful. And then we need people like David to help all the young entrepreneurs to see the new possibilities, the greatest potential in all the entrepreneurship. Instead of focus on the past, dead business, it's going to be eliminated anyway and come up with the new. Well, hundreds, thousands, millions of new business is going to be around the rise. See the new. See the flow, see the infinity, see the new possibilities. Thank you. I want to see from your thoughts, through your mind, the beyond the thoughts, and see if we have some new way of conceive.
Well, these are topics that you mentioned, Shifu, that are deeply, deeply interesting for me, to be honest. And I have been studying entrepreneurship for decades now, both as an entrepreneur and as an investor. I've seen thousands of business plans myself and invested in dozens of companies. Um, and obviously, from a business investment perspective, we look at the common things that most investors would look for, like market size and technology and team and all these things that most traditional investors look for. And I recognize that most early stage investors, angel investors such as myself, when we invest, we get it wrong because a lot of these companies don't make it. So those companies fail, and we as investors lose our money. It's very painful. So I was trying to solve that pain point for myself and began looking at other ways that um, leads to what you just described as possibilities. And that's why the work of Niels Bohr and Einstein and these very well-known physicists in the last century discovered things that I think are now becoming much more acceptable in today's science, which is this realm of quantum, you know, that it's all waves until we observe it, and then it becomes particles, some things that actually we can actually touch and see and feel because the waves collapse into matter, right? And I think there are some entrepreneurs that we all have known in this lifetime, guys such as Steve Jobs. I think we all know who Steve Jobs was as the founder of Apple and Pixar and Next Computing, and what he was able to do to visualize products such as the iPhone and to be able to take that vision and turn that into a product that becomes highly, highly scalable and thus makes the company highly, highly valuable, right? I think a lot of people may not know that his favorite book was the Yogananda book called The Autobiography of a Yogi. And when I read that a couple years ago, as reading it for the first time, a lot of the content, the history of Yogananda, as described to most people today, would make it seem unbelievable, right? Almost fantasy-like. But if that is truth, right? Uh, Tapping that into quantum and being able to take the quantum and turn it into 3D reality based on Newtonian physics, then it's something that I think is very, very interesting because that means we all have the capacity, the power to be able to do that. And as entrepreneurs, we are tasked to create, to take a vision that maybe is different and to see how that can become a reality and turn it into something that a lot of people can use, and that therefore it becomes scalable and very commercializable. So it is this new way of doing things that I'm personally very interested in discovering for the people that I support. We run a cohort here in Princeton. It's called the cohort run by Princeton Venture Studio. And we teach entrepreneurs about this methodology, like what Steve Jobs used in his entrepreneurial startups to have vision, and be able to lead into purpose and to be able to take those visions and concepts and turn that into 3D reality. And I remember myself, way back, I was a young engineer for Honda Motor in Japan, and I was trained how to do R&D, research and development, by Honda Motor in Japan. And I was brought back to the United States to lead the development of what then was called the navigation systems for cars. And today, think about when you get into your car, well, how do you get from point A to point B? Well, your car could either have a navigation device, or you hop onto your phone and you have Google Maps or Apple Ways, and it tells you how to get from where you are to where you need to go. And back in the day, if you remember, the only way to navigate was by paper maps, right? And we were tasked to launching this device in cars when there was no such device. And my mentor, luckily for me, was the innovator of a product that became known as airbags for cars. And his story was back in the 1970s, people didn't believe that a steering wheel popping out of the when you crash, people didn't believe that a balloon popping out of the steering wheel could save your life. And he faced a lot of resistance by the executives at Honda Motor to launch such a prototype and a project, which eventually became a product. And his advice to me when I was a young engineer was that, the market doesn't know what they want because they haven't seen it yet. It's not been realized. So to do market surveys, market studies on a device that doesn't exist yet, um, he says that's a waste of time. And I think in some ways that is what visionary entrepreneurship is about, is to be able to see into the future what the market cannot see because they don't understand it. And I think in some ways that's what Steve Jobs must have done because he saw into the future that these smartphones wouldn't have keyboards. They wouldn't, they'd be different. They'd have all these different functionalities that back in the time, phones such as Motorola, Nokia, and BlackBerry, they dominated the market, right? And they missed the opportunity of smartphones, obviously. But it's because of the vision of the entrepreneur, of the engineer, right, that kind of sees beyond what the market sees today, that is able to kind of disrupt the marketplace. So I appreciated that lesson when I was a young engineer to launch new products, to launch something that the market currently doesn't understand. And now, a bit later in my life, I feel that I'm trying to do this in a flow with mind, body, spirit. And as you pointed out, I've been doing Japanese karate for many decades now, and it is my form of meditation, my martial arts. And there's something that uh, for advanced practitioners, it's called a mushin, or empty mind. I think there's something very similar in Kung Fu, right? Which is that empty your mind, and somehow you are able to execute the techniques in such ways that you would not be able to do if you were just thinking about it all the time. So this concept of mushin I'm practicing as I do my kata, as I try to be in flow when I do my karate, right? So combining mind, body, and spirit, tapping into my own divine to be able to execute the best technique I can execute. And that I think applies to business and entrepreneurship as well. And I would encourage young entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs to develop a practice that resonates with you, that you can tap into your own divine and get signals from the universe to kind of give you direction for where you should go.
Beautiful, beautiful stated. Um, empty mind is in every martial artist supposed to be. However, a lot of us focused so much on each technique, think so much on each technique, think, give so much attention to each technique, we lost the flow. And that's a big problem. I've been doing martial arts not too long. My first teaching was 1968. I started teaching in 1968. So according to humans' time, a little bit longer than a lot of people. But I see I'm still a beginner. And I developed a lot of things. I developed a lot of techniques. I led the United States national head coach as a head coach to fight the world championship. And I would trained hundreds of thousands of students. And I see a few of them really resonate. And because they're in flow, they're in flow. Just like you mentioned Steve Jobs. One time his company used my picture for one of the articles. I was wondering why they used my picture. let's say the wisdom, okay? And they because Steve knows me, and then they put this Zen guy, this Zen master, or this Kung Fu, grandmaster, whatever, they have this identification. And it's supposed to be wisdom. I don't know if I, as self-natured wisdom, unveiled as much as everybody. However, I see everybody has it. But most people, they focus so much on the techniques. They focus so much on the commercial. They focus so much on the superficial surface. They focus so much on already there. But they seldom get the inside of it. They seldom get that realm before it unveiled, before it is manifested, before it is discovered, before it is realized. That's the big problem. What I see on so-called entrepreneurship, real entrepreneurship to me is that you really learn how to calm down, to empty mind, to see that cosmic consciousness unveil to you, something comes out. Just like the beginning, I see Steve has this computer, and I even use it, this Apple, and then it's really with a disk. It's terrible. I cannot say I will give the just suggestions to him or suggestion to the company, at least, because that's a tool. Everybody copy each other. You need to see beyond that. Instead of market, you need to develop a market, new market. Everybody can see you lead that market. As a new realm is created. But most people follow others. You become slaves, become the second man, second woman. But that's not a life to live. You cannot follow AI and AGI, follow your past. But you need to create as a human being. That creation comes from where? From the very fabric of the universe. From the very interconnected world, in alignment with the cosmic consciousness, in and out of that quantum field, just like my name. My name is DeRu. De is what? The principle of the universe. That's the compassion. That's my name. There is the compassion, the interconnectedness, the very fabric of the universe is called the De. What is Ru? Popped in and out, popped in and out. The electrons in and out. That is quantum field. That's my name. That's the very fabric of my name. That's why since my childhood, I've been doing this for 50 years. And I see everything is created. I was a beggar on the street. I never had education. But suddenly I went to college. I finished my education 9 to 11 years within 1.5 years. There was no computer those days. But you can do that. Why? It is the quantum field. You touch the quantum field, anything download. Even the old information is not a problem. I got in college. When I come to the United States, people say, no way. Because you are in China, it's called 成分. You understand 成分? Because your nature of your physical being is no good politically, political realm. Forget about political things. I say, well, I'm going to transcend beyond the political, transcend beyond that physical, transcend beyond that group education, transcend beyond the society. I say, what I can do? Eventually, I even meet the top leader of China. There's no way in everybody's mind I can meet the top leader of China, the number one leader of China. For whatever reason, for all kinds of crazy things coming, but nobody think that's possible. It's only negative possibilities. But I met him, and then I transmit that information. People like me, can I go to the United States because I want to go to the United States? And then 2 years later, and he issued a permission to the entire country. And I heard on the radio. I said, wow, that's 2 years ago. I told him. Now he really write it. He literally write that article to release people like me with bad, like a black sheep of the country, the black sheep of the country, that he can be released to anywhere he want to go. So you can see people can transcend beyond that material, beyond that good, beyond that layers of physical, of material, information, transactional, that are burden upon you. In Chinese, they call yadasanda. That means billions of heavy weight on you. How can you get out? No, you don't have to get it from the material way. You can transcend beyond the material because the material is a vibration. The information is a vibration. Everything is a vibration. But people forgot that. People use the mind. It's just always solid. Of course, I got a degree, a master's degree. I got so-called bachelor's degree. I studied English. I studied French. I studied Deutsch, German. I studied quantum physics. I studied physiology. I studied circulatory physiology and sports medicine. I studied and cosmology. It's not a problem. So sometimes we restrict ourselves. We think this is the only way because we see that grooved information. We see that set information. We imprison ourselves. We have a yoke in our body, in our mind. We frame ourselves in such a pattern we cannot get out. So get out of the pattern. So I guess that, they did some creative way. So that's why, Steve put my picture on the article. Some people say, did he get your permission? I said, no, he got it from the internet. So whatever, I don't care. Not because I know these people, but, people want to use my picture. A lot of people use my picture everywhere in the world. It's okay. It's on the internet. It's on the Google. It's on the Wikipedia. It's everywhere. They can do that. So what I see is here, I am just an open-minded person and connect with anybody. And I want to see we do together, co-create a new generation, a new reality, a new humanity, a new civilization. That's what I'm here for. Because that's why I say I'm the universe. I am the cosmos. I am the humanity. I am the solar system. I'm the galaxy. Because
Yes.
we are all connected. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yes. Well, I think it's about the establishment of a community which can grow, and can scale, right, to individuals. If there is this notion of duality, I guess, if there are individuals out there, if we're all aspects of this one collective consciousness, right? But we're all different facets of that. And that we live in 3D reality, right? And therefore there are people out there. There are 7 to 8 billion people on the planet. And the question is, in our communities, how do we bring about this kind of thought and therefore behavior so that people can be part of the I wouldn't call it a movement necessarily, but really a new way of thinking about their lives so they can improve their lives at the individual level. And hopefully, because they get to do that, then they uplift their own communities, right? And because they uplift community, and if we're all connected, then their individual consciousness contributes to the collective consciousness that we all share. And last year, I started what's called the New York City Conscious Entrepreneurs Get Together. It's like a gathering, a social gathering. And I've done this probably like around 7, 8, maybe 9 times over the past year, once every couple of months. And we just held our last event last week, right before Thanksgiving in New York City. We had like 140 RSVPs on very short notice, and maybe 80 people showed up, which is fairly typical. And every time I do this, I always get some very, very positive feedback, some very, very positive vibes that come out of that. And it leads me to believe that, we're onto something if we can get people together to talk about this stuff, about creation, about co-creation, and how they can take part of it. And more importantly, how they can lead the effort, how they can lead the effort by being their own version of entrepreneurs through vision, through tapping into source, the universe, and being able to take that and get into flow to make it actionable so they themselves can become hopefully successful entrepreneurs as well. So when I call it conscious entrepreneurship, it is about not just the philosophy and the framework, but also taking it into action so that people who are interested in entrepreneurship can take part and use this methodology and framework to hopefully use this to launch companies that affect themselves and impact their communities and get to create highly, highly valuable companies. And as I talk about this in my events, I feel it really resonates, and we have a following so far, at least in New York City. And it's my goal to take this and expand this throughout the country and then throughout the world with your help, of course. And we're going to do it together.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, this is what I see. When you become the light, all the lights will converge together. So live as light, live as infinite being, live
Yes.
with the greatest potential. Every minute you see the new shift. Instead of stay on the old shift, transcend. That transcendence is not you set expectations. That's not I'm talking to you. I'm going to talk to everybody. So I've been preparing for the 50 years. Since 1970s, I was in deep meditation to get rid of my diseased state, to get rid of my losing hair, to get rid of my depression, to get my autoimmune disease. And I see every reality becomes possible. Today, I have the healthiest body ever during my years, start from 50s up to today. I still can do, I don't do long. I do at least 2 minutes of handstand. I can do at least, I don't do a lot. I can do at least 30 to 50 single hand push-ups. How many people born in 50s can do that? So it's not just your body, your ability to handle your body or do a cartwheel or do a flip, but your awareness, your physical expansion, your plasticity of your brain, your plasticity of your body. You give new information to the newborn stem cells instead of give the disease the old state. And today, of course, we begin to call epigenetics instead of the old genetics inheritance. So all that is changing. You see, and we can each of us embody ourselves. I once told some people, people like Steve is one of them. if you get out of that state, that hatred, that depression, that mindset, your father, your mother, left you, that's the past. It's dead. Don't hang on it, and create yourself because you come to this world. That's the most fortunate. But that fortunate can be framed, can be imprisoned by the old thoughts, old ideas, transcend beyond the thought. Why beyond the thoughts? Because thoughts give you sufferings, thoughts give you pain, thoughts give you that depression, thoughts give you that limitations, thoughts give you that scarcity, thoughts give you that separation, thoughts give you that how we do from the past. The past is over. Create a new. That's what I say in flow. That vision comes without thoughts. That vision comes without that how. The vision comes with a connection. That's why I say, let's start from that simple empty mind, that cosmic breath. You breathe in with the cosmic consciousness, energy frequency. You hold totally empty, and you breathe out, let go all the attachments. And then the old attachments go, a new can flow in. And then the new antenna can lift up. And the new way of Tao, what I call Tao is infinite way of perceiving and conceiving, and can flow in. You got to have that new way of see things. But that is not a set way or set path. Is what I call pathless path. The path without the conclusion, the path without set direction, without set expectation or anything set is of the past, because you get used to that box, that set box. Get out of the box. Let it flow. Let it flow. You will see new things. Just like one of my friends, John, from Duke University, he said, hey, Shifu, it works. When I'm doing this formula in quantum physics, and I cannot get out of that, that groove, that formula. And I'm stuck with it. And then I got this dark room. I stayed in the dark room for 3 days. I only brought water into the room. When I come out, oh my goodness, I was so stupid. I stuck with the old formula. That formula, I need to just totally abandon it. I got to come new, and then I knew things coming out. I published a new article, and then totally new. That's beautiful. I said, well, that's beautiful. Same thing, the guy, Josh, came to our conference. We did a conference. You brought Sophia to the conference with your team. And then we have quantum physicists, we have epigenetics, we have a lot of people came to the conference. And one of my students, Josh, he does hacker. He basically do a counter hacker for companies. He write a formula, and he just cannot do it. And I did it for 6 months. Nothing came out because he's stuck with the old information, old formula. He's stuck with it. I said, come on. He said, he cannot come because he need to finish that. It's been 6 months. He just cannot finish it. Let it go. You will find something new. Come to the conference. So he came to our conference, 2008. You were part of the conference, And then middle of the conference, he just left. What happened is something is done to him. Get rid of the old. Totally destroyed the old. Totally new comes up. He went to the hotel. It took him 10 minutes to finish the whole thing. That's the beauty of inflow. That's the beauty of open your mind. That's the beauty of let it go. That's the beauty to transcend beyond that old formula, the old division, the old separation, the old ideas, the old frame of thinking. So because he's not thinking, he's just listening. just listening, just no thoughts. So that no thoughts, he didn't understand the no thoughts before that time. That really give him, oh wow, that's called you tell us every day the sudden awakening, the sudden enlightenment, the sudden opening. And then I personally experienced that moment. And then totally new credit. And that's what I see. Abandon the how. Let it
Yes.
flow.
So
And that's what
we
I
want
see.
to,
Any entrepreneurship can be doing that. Thank you. Go ahead.
I was going to say that we want to inspire a generation of entrepreneurs to do just what you described, to let go, to let go of the traditional means and somehow get into a practice, whether it's meditation or other forms of mindfulness, and to get the downloads and get the answer almost immediately, and then to take action upon that, right? I think
Beautiful.
that
Yes.
is how we want
Absolutely.
to, at least as I think about the educational aspect of what it is that we're doing to bring methodology and curriculum to entrepreneurs. It's a ways to train, just like we train in martial arts. It's training. We go to the dojo, we go to the gym, we train, train, train. It's through the repetition, the exhaustion of getting to a physical state that naturally your body lets go. And then because of that, your mind lets go. And then new things can come in, right? At least that's what I was taught to train in, to the point of exhaustion. And there's always ways to push your limit further. But through that process, I think things open up for new ways that can come in. And I think entrepreneurship can be the same. And it is my goal to hopefully take this methodology and nurture the next generation so they can become the next generation of, let's say, Steve Jobs. And if we get to create many of these people, hundreds, thousands of people that become their version of Steve Jobs, think of all the great things that they get to create because of this path of entrepreneurship, right?
Precisely. What do you talk about? It's what I call Kung Fu flow, the action of Kung Fu in flow, the generalized Kung Fu, not the Kung Fu in particular, punching or kicking or sweeping or rustling. Rather, this is a Kung Fu of the mind, Kung Fu of the entire holistic body and mind, the heart and the mind and the consciousness, the whole holistic integrated whole. When you have that total transformation, when you have every day that reprogramming by the self, that healing of the past, the moving to the future is now. It's not expectation. It's not a set goals. Rather, it's the opening. The initiation that Kung Fu retraining, that programming, and one, two, three, four, a group of lights begin to blink. And then the light will transcend. More lights begin to. Just like, I remember Albert Einstein, one of the articles about Albert Einstein, but when he gave a speech in Germany, and the guy and the mathematician came to his speech about his formula, but he didn't finish it. He cannot. He stuck with it. When he gave that speech, he almost let it go. And when he gave the speech, and when he talked about his formula, he stuck with the formula, and he just let it go. And then with that moment he let it go, and then that connection, that mathematician came over, and then they begin to connect, resonate. The two light resonate. And he got it, and the other guy also got it. And then they published the article almost simultaneously. Of course, the guy gave to him because the original formula was from him. They transcend beyond that thinking, mind, and both enlightened. both open up. That's why you see very important to create a group of people that can vibrate together into the
Mm.
new realm and the new OS. That's precisely what we talk about and flow into the new OS with a Kung Fu mind. That Kung Fu is mindless, thoughtless. And of course, during the time, we have ups and downs. A lot of things people think, okay, you have suffered a lot. No, I didn't suffer. I see that suffering. I see that blocks. I see that, you know, agonies. I see that as part of my enabling. Because each time you enable yourself, each time you go higher and higher into the realm, into different dimension, and you see things differently. You stand on top of the giants of Newton, of Einstein, of Gautama Staha, the Buddha, and you stand top of the shoulder of Lao Tzu, the Tao, and you see, wow, that vision is totally, totally different. You can see much more inside, beyond that separation, that scarcity, that material only model of surface. You see what is the insight of all things, just like what Max Planck said. The fundamental is the consciousness. The physical is the derivative. Because you get inside of the consciousness and then you see the direction of the vibration. Everything is a vibration. E equals HV. And then you come up with what? And with the manifestation of the physical being. So from that order, and you will see the insight is so vital. The future is the insight. The future is the inner observation. The future is that inner vibration and to create a new world of being. And
Mm.
in AI, beyond the AI and beyond the AGI, and human beings and machine co-work together. AI, AGI will be the co-pilot. You are the creator, and then they're going to be executive for you. And you
Mm.
must free yourself. You must empty yourself. You must enlighten yourself, waken up yourself from the old model, flow into the new. That pathless path. Don't make a decision yet. Don't make conclusion. When you make conclusion, you put yourself down. Let it flow. Thank you.
Mm. Mm. That's very interesting because, traditionally we talk about what is the path, what is the roadmap, right? Or as strategists and investors, we're always asking ourselves and our companies, where's your roadmap, right? What's the strategy to get there? And what you're saying, which I am beginning to learn, is really to not have a roadmap set in stone, but rather to be open to the possibilities of what can emerge as a result of taking the path, right? And once you take the path, you take the action, then further steps will get revealed to you. And part of taking the path, I think if you take it with people who are on the same frequency range as you are, as one is, right? Then the idea is that, does, as you call it, different lights, you put two or three lights together, right? Do those lights resonate, right? And then, like in physics, you have waves, right? Because you have two or three people together, do the waves get to amplify each other, or do they get to
Beautiful.
cancel?
Yes.
So the
Yes.
idea is that if you have a team of people, 3 to 4 people, and you get into a room to call it brainstorm, call it whatever, to talk about a particular issue or a problem or a product direction or whatever it may be, sometimes you walk out of meetings like a brainstorm session or just a creativity session. After 45 minutes, sometimes it's very painful, and you know that maybe not everybody in the room resonated with the idea. And some other times you come out of a session 30, 45 minutes and you feel, wow, full of energy, right? Full of energy because everybody sees the potential. And it's because the 3 or 4 people were in the room together talking about that these possibilities, that this potential gets to emerge, right? And from there, you get to create the roadmap. You get to create the next set of steps that you take together, or you divide and conquer. You kind of say, here are the steps that we need to take to get to the next intersection of this meeting again, to brainstorm again, to kind of continue this path until you finally get to building something that ends up being pretty amazing, right? That is the process I see.
Beautiful, beautiful. Why I say pathless path? When you set certain way with old expectations, you already frame yourself in that stagnant, rigid. That's not alive. Alive, a path of life is countless renovation, countless renew, countless expansion without set. And then your mind is going to be open up without stuck with the thoughts. What I see is beyond the thinking. The thinking, any thoughts, any thinking is of the past. When you open up, when you let it open, when you let it flow, there's no frame. So that's what I call pathless path. There's no conclusion. When you can't have a conclusion, that map is set. That's the old map. It's already set. But when you have a virtual thing, virtual map, and everybody creating, and then the map begin to expand, expand, and then more clarity comes out. More clarity comes out. When the more clarity comes out, and then new things come out, and then you have another. So that's why the resonance is important. That a group is important, because that mind, when everybody help each other, actually open each other, resonate with each other, and then to peel off the old frame, the old ideas, the old set, the old, the limitations. And that is creativity. That's innovation. That's expansion. And that's what we do. And then we can talk more in the future. And then especially when I talk about AGI, instead of reflect us of the old past, to reflect us of creation and co-pilot, and free ourselves from that old knowledge, old mindset, create a new. And then the AGI become a company of the human being, record of what human beings can do, the beautiful things, that resonance, that harmony, that compassion. See that very fabric of humanity, instead of stay with that old peril of self-extinction, that fight, because that are thoughts, that are emotions, that are hatreds, that are conflicts, that disease state eventually create into that terminal of self-destruction. There's not a single doubt about it. But it's a beautiful way right now. It's the best opportunity. AGI take over the knowledge, and the human being begin to open up, to liberate ourselves from that old consciousness, from that old subconsciousness, and reprogramming, learn internally to open up the cosmic intelligence, the wisdom intelligence, instead of the smart intelligence that can be self-destruction. The new is also the origin of the cosmos. Maybe before the Big Bang, before the singularity, that eternal, I call loops of quantum consciousness. And our friend Rogers call it that cycler cosmology. That's infinite. When I argue at the beginning with Stuart Hamoff, remember? At our conference, I said, "Oh, 师傅, it's no nothingness. That's the physics said. It's everything coming from nothingness. It's not nothing." I said, "My nothingness is totally different from the particle physicist said nothingness. My nothingness is a full of potentiality. My nothingness is full of infinite wisdom, consciousness, of intelligence. What I say nothingness is the great void that all the quantum entanglement exist, that quantum consciousness, that quantum field is connected, and then all in flow. It's totally different. Oh yeah, that's nothingness. I accepted that nothingness. So at the beginning of Stewart's speech, he said, "Oh, Shifu said the nothingness," and he began to see. So that means the conversation doesn't have to be conflict. The conversation can become coherent, and we resonate with each other.
Yes,
that's the
yes,
beauty of the conference. The conference,
yes.
actually, a lot of people told me, and then quantum physicists and epigenetics, and they say, "Well, we got a lot out of it." That's beautiful. Even one of the president of arts college, and he always say, "Oh, that was the most beautiful conference I've ever attended. It was so beautiful, and it's given me a lot of creativity, giving me a new way of see things, beyond my thoughts." That's good. It's good. It's good. That's all it's about. The conference is kind of, gather together, just like this conference we just did, you and me. We did this summit called Genesis in a summit. And it's a co-creation. It's a Kung Fu Renaissance, returning to the origin. Origin of what? Origin of cosmic consciousness. Origin of loops of that quantum field, that cosmic matrix of the consciousness. So that's what I saw, return to the origin. And then we are connected with the fabric of the compassion, and that really give you downloading a new OS in the making, in the flow. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Appreciate it. We talk more. Okay, we talk more.
Yes, we talk more. Yes, of course. Yes.
We're gonna go to the east together. I think we have a lot of things. We have a lot of people gonna meet us. We have people from South America, and people from Europe, and people from China, and yes, we are from the United States. And I think the whole world should be coherent instead of fight each other. That's what I think. The world is cooperation. Thank you.
I agree. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Take care. Have a beautiful day.
Okay. Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
We'll talk soon.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.